Howdy folks, and welcome again to the Vancouver International Wine Festival. I'm lucky enough to be here with my new friend Federico from, we're going to have to get closer. Federico from Argiano, which is a winery in Toscano or Tuscany. Federico, I wanted to talk to you today because you at Argiano are doing something really special. You're making Bordeaux. No, but I mean, I'm joking about it, but I'm also not joking about it. You are making a Bordeaux-style blend in Tuscany.
It's true.
With the addition of Syrah. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration at the winery? Why would you do this when Tuscany is so well known, and perhaps it's easier to market traditional Tuscan blends?
It's truly correct because we are in the heart of Tuscany, but with Montalcino, with such historical winery like Argiano, we're talking since the 1580.
I'm just going to show people the label.
Yes, making the blend like the Solengo, it was kind of, we can say crazy. It was really a challenge. And there's a little story that I'm going to tell you behind because
Beautiful.
we go back. We go back to the 1990s when our previous owner was the Countess Cinzano Marrone, Cinzano from the Vermouth.
Okay.
Is not the owner anymore today, but she has a good friend, Giacomo Takis, which unfortunately he just passed away a few weeks ago.
Yes.
We know him through the Sassicaia and the Tignanello. He's the same winemaker.
Absolutely.
And he found out that behind the villa that we see on the label of the Solengo, we had a couple of hectares that weren't doing so good for the Sangiovese. So he suggested to just take it off and put some grapes that he used for this blend in the Sassicaia or the Tignanello wine, which are the Cabernet Sauvignon, the Merlot, the Syrah, and today also the Petit Verdot. And the wine basically was born like that. It was a challenge because nobody back then had this type of wine in Montalcino.
And I mean, we don't have all the time in the world, but I have to ask, how difficult was this for the winery to make it is one thing, but then to sell it is a whole other thing. Was your audience receptive to this? Were your customers enthusiastic about the idea of Bordeaux blends from Tuscany? What was it like for you guys?
Well, we have to say that we go back to the 90s, and people probably more than today were very excited actually about this new winemaking, because it's not just the grape. It was really a challenge in how you use the barrel, how you use the barrique, how you give a different taste to, we can call it almost like a boring wine. The wine used to be flat and all the same. Like this, with this new wine, you would give some new characteristic, new story to tell, and new flavor, more modern. In France, they started way before. We were a little later, but in the 90s, Giacomo Takis was really all over Italy, revolutionary the winemaking process.
So, even though Federico's here, I can share with you my review. If you haven't seen it on Twitter or on Facebook, this is actually one of the most exciting wines of the festival for me. The nose carries such an amazing level of concentration that it really has to be experienced. The palate, crisp, vibrant, but incredibly well balanced. The tannins are full, and yet they got a bit of chew to them, but very approachable. And this is a wine that, even though we're already drinking the 2012 vintage, drinks superbly on its own. It doesn't need anything. Of course, many of you know that I love a good cigar, so I would pair a great cigar with it, and an evening on the patio with a friend. But now let's get back to Federico, and let's talk a little bit more about this influence from one of the most progressive leaders of thought in wine, not just in Italy, but in the entire world. Because Federico, your Brunello di Montalcino is something special as well. Let's just raise up the bottle so everyone can see it. Beautiful. And can you tell me a little bit about how that's evolved over the past few decades?
Well, yes, it definitely evolved overall in the Montalcino area, the winemaking. But let's talk just about Argiano. And in the past 3 years, we changed ownership, and this allowed us to make a new investment. And we really want to focus the quality of the wine as the principal target, the principal goal. So we started working first in the cellar with new barrels and new technique, but mostly in the vineyards. So we planted some new hectares of vineyards, and we started to use a different way of treating our soil, because that's today it's where actually 95% of the wine comes. We used to say it comes half from the work in the vineyards and the other half in the cellar. We are really changing our opinion, and we think that most of the work, most of the wine come from actually the vineyard.
Oh, absolutely true. And you're not alone in that. Some of the top colleagues that you have in this room and abroad are saying the exact same thing.
Yes, it's a big challenge, especially for wineries or for regions that they have, made wine for such a long time in a way.
Right.
Now you have to change philosophy, and we say that we want to change vision.
Right. And has your market been quick to notice the evolution?
The market is exceptionally, the reception of the market is incredible. They really love this idea. We talk about a lot organic and biodynamic, but there is a lot more behind that.
Yes.
And it's truly more pure and real, the product, and you can really taste it vintage after vintage in the bottle.
And what a great lead-in. Thank you so much, Federico. Because let's talk about this vintage. This is the 2011, and you can see in the glass, it's got beautiful concentration, just a little bit of a ruby hue to it. On the nose, just a wash with floral tones, but a spice in the background, warm earth, and of course, those fresh berries are just singing all the way through it. On the palate, it's really something special. It's a baby, right? I mean, there's no getting away from it. We're talking about a 4 or 4.5-year-old Brunello. Hold on to this thing for another 20 years if you want to. However, decant it, aerate it, hell, just open it up long before you start dinner. And by the time you sit down with your friends, it'll be exceptional. It's got a weight, a concentration, a freshness to it that's really exceptional. But one of the things that I really love, Federico, is that this wine seems to have an ability to speak with a very authentic voice. It doesn't try to be something else. And is that because of the practices in the vineyard?
Definitely it is. You said it correctly, because what we want, it's really that you taste the Sangiovese.
Right.
And the Sangiovese, it's such a fantastic grape that it can really, it's planted all over Italy, and you can really get different style from a region to another, but not only, from a place to another, and we're discovering that we get a different taste from the vineyards to another.
Right.
And that's pretty amazing. So what we truly want from this wine is to be real.
Yes.
You want to taste the Sangiovese, and the Sangiovese is this earthy, you describe it very well. And it's fantastic because you can drink it today, but you can drink it in 5 years or even 10 years or longer. And this is what makes fantastic the Montalcino area product.
So, Federico, I have to ask, just between friends, I of course know what I would be eating with the Brunello, but this is from your home.
Yes.
When you're drinking Brunello at home, what are you eating with it?
Sometimes people, they ask me, it's a very full body because they think you have to age it that long. Brunello, I think, is actually more on the medium body.
Yes.
It doesn't have that structure that you think. From the color, you see it's a lot lighter than other wine that age longer, like a Cabernet.
Yes.
And that's due to its components originally. So even young, it's a lot lighter than the other wine. And when it gets older, it gets even thinner, in the flavor and the color. So you can really have a very wide variety of food.
He's going to say cheesies. Just wait for it. I know he's going to say cheesies.
Well, we eat a lot of cheese with this. In Montalcino, famous of the area is of course the pecorino.
Oh yeah,
That's a fantastic
My
cheese.
daughter loves pecorino.
You can have an aged, you can have a young cheese. It's always good.
Yeah.
But in Montalcino, we love to eat this with something that we find right there, which is the wild boar. And I say wild boar just to go back and just say one last thing, which nobody knows about the Solengo, but this is actually where the name comes from. We gave the name to a wine that was kind of out of the way, totally different than the trend in Montalcino, which is Sangiovese. In fact, Solengo in the local dialect means a solitary wild boar.
Oh wow.
Nobody knows that.
Okay.
But that's the name of Solengo, and it reflects the characteristic of this wine in such a region that is so profound attached to a Sangiovese.
Beautiful. Federico, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Thank you.
Folks, if you're looking for great values in Brunello, and let's be honest, if you're looking for great value in Bordeaux, don't look any further. Argiana. And Federico, where are you exporting to? Canada?
Our biggest market are Canada and the United States.
Are you exporting to Northern Europe at all?
We do. Just to give you an example, we have about 50 different countries that we export to. We're just 50 hectares, so we make just a little over 300,000 bottles. So we're pretty small, but we have 50 countries that we try to please every year.
And what's the website address?
It's www.argiano.net, N-E-T.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, it was a very good